Real quick before we jump into the video, guys, for the rest of this year I'm going to be on a fundraising campaign to raise a minimum of £1,000 for the Great Ormond Street Children's Hospital. For more information on the charity and what it does, and for the donation links, please look in the description below. And thank you all for your continued support. Enjoy the show. What's going on, guys? Ribombee teacher in the house, and we are here today with my 2-year Q&A version of Ask Ribombee. So for those who haven't seen this series before, basically this series is quite simple. I ask for questions in my Discord server, and then I answer your questions from you guys. As it's a 2-year anniversary this year, I thought it was a perfect time to bring this back. I used to do this monthly, but I kind of stopped doing it because the questions kind of either got the same or they just weren't the kind of questions able to come through. So this time around, of course, it is my 2-year celebration stream, so I do want to start by thanking everybody who has been part of this journey, from even if you started from 2 years ago, you met me before I started streaming, or you met me just this morning. You know, everyone is important here, and everyone has been a huge part of all of this journey, and I couldn't be any more grateful to have you all in the Quiver Dance Club, so I'm super grateful to have you all here. So with that all being said, let's get started with the questions. First question from Ben's Awesome is, how do you decide what you wanted to do with streaming? Things like how you want people to see you, what kind of content you want to focus on, and stuff like that. So for me, it's a pretty easy one. Obviously, being a Pokemon fan through and through, I have been playing Pokemon since the original Japanese Pokemon Green back in 1996. So it's been a bit of a long time. I'm a bit of a boomer when it comes to Pokemon these days. And at that time, it was like, well, pretty obvious if I was going to start streaming, Pokemon was obviously going to be the main forefront of what I do. And it largely just came down to what did I enjoy the most. So I've played a lot of competitive over the years. I've been playing competitive. It's my 20th year of competitive now, basically. So it's been a while. Definitely been a while. So we are obviously going to focus on that. So I mostly kept my competitive stuff to YouTube because I felt like streaming competitive is just not that exciting. There weren't that many people streaming competitive at the time when I started. So I was like, well, at least I can make it as a YouTube video. So my goal really with that was to just basically watch myself back. I never expected to have like 180 plus people subscribe to my YouTube channel and people actually watch it. I just made it mostly for fun, just to look at myself back and help myself improve. And then when it comes to how I want people to see me, I kind of want people to see me as that kind of role model in a way, to kind of show that you don't have to just sit in silence. You know, you can be able to talk to people, you can laugh and joke with people and actually garner a lot of support that way. So that's essentially what I wanted people to do. And yeah, obviously I joke around, I troll my chat trolls me and stuff like that. But I wanted it to kind of be a place where it's okay to have a laugh. So that's essentially really how that all started. Next one comes from kind of two different people that kind of asked a very similar thing. Melissa, of course, who's known me for 10 years, and Phoenix, who's known me for a year, of course. Have I ever reconsidered our friendship? And if I could, would I want to unmeet you guys? No. Like, the reality is, and I've talked about this before, but like, the amount of friends that I have now through doing all of this and, you know, garnering all the support I've got, you know, whether it's been you've known me for a decade in Melissa's case, like, we met playing Town of Salem many years ago, and stuff like that, and that was always good fun. And obviously I met Phoenix from a community that's was pretty toxic, but we both left, and we're both still friends ever since. So when it comes to this kind of thing, I find it hard sometimes to admit it, but my attachment disorder is pretty scary. So for those who don't know what disorganized attachment disorder is, essentially it's a mental disorder which makes it very difficult for you to form friendships with anyone or any kind of attachment with anyone. And it's even harder to maintain it, you know, and it's something that people have, you know, that skill now, they take it for granted, right? But for me, it's like, yeah, no, it's not that easy for me. But yeah, when it comes to pretty much everyone who's a regular in the Quiver Dance Club, people have known me for a long time, you know, I appreciate everyone who supports me no matter what, right? And it can be difficult at times to maintain that from my own end, but I don't think there's ever a world where I'd be like, yeah, no, I wish I never met that guy or whatever. And, you know, people do come and go, and that's just part and parcel of life, right? But the ones that stick around are your real friends, so no, there would be no world where that ever happens. So, Cass asks, what inspired me to start streaming? One of the inspirations for me was a lot of Pokemon streamers that I watched back in the day, like Shady Penguin and Patters and Game Boy Luke and those guys that used to do a lot of Nuzlocke streams and stuff like that. I definitely enjoyed watching those, and that was definitely a big one. But like, my biggest inspiration came from my late best friend, Rosie. She was kind of the like guiding light for me, because we used to watch them all the time, and she just turned around to me and said, well, why don't you do that? You know, why can't you do that as well? And that was kind of my big driving force, and Rosie was like the big inspiration for me to keep going as well when I started and I wasn't particularly good. But yeah, Rosie was probably the biggest inspiration for me, but it's just watching content and thinking, well, I can do that. So, it's definitely an easy thing for me to consider. Irish Starfish asked me, you've opened up so much and been and met so many people. How do you feel now after it all, and how do you keep going? So, obviously the opening up part is pretty majorly categorized by the fact that I told my story about my life in my YouTube video at the end of last year. I titled it Ribombee Teaching My Story. I definitely think it's worth watching if you haven't watched it yet, especially if you're a returning subscriber. It's the featured video on my channel, so it'll be the first one you see. How do I feel about it now? I definitely feel like there's a huge weight taken off my shoulders, because I've been able to achieve a lot of things that I never thought possible. So, being able to tell my story for the first time is a huge one. And how do I keep going? Pretty easy in that sense. It's the fact that I know that I have such amazing support around me, and I know that I've been able to develop so much from what I do. And the fact that there are so many opportunities still out there that I can take and that I can keep working on. I'm really excited for it. I really am. And so there's so much for me to go for. There's so much for me still to achieve. And it's the fact that I still have people that are keeping me going on my way that just makes everything so possible. We have a double-ended question from Vesper here. Two separate questions asked at the same time. How is streaming and making friends affected both negatively and positively your mental or physical health? And then a non-streaming question, but do you know any other languages? So, I'll do the languages one first, as that's an easier one. So I actually studied German and French at school. I could somewhat still speak both, but kind of very, very low level nowadays, because I just don't speak it that much anymore. So, generally speaking, while I technically do know them, I'm very out of practice speaking them, so I wouldn't necessarily do it myself in that regard. But I do know people that do speak it, so who knows, maybe I'll practice at some point again in the future. Who knows? But as for the streaming making friends, negatively, positively, I've had experiences in both sides. I've been in some pretty toxic situations. There's always drama and all that crap that kind of ruins me negatively. Had a bit of that recently as well with a so-called support server. But yeah, that's just how that goes. But on the positive side though, like, the reality is when you meet a bunch of new people that have, you know, common or even in some cases uncommon interests, you know, there's quite a particular subsection of my audience now that have never played a Pokemon game in their life before, but they still regularly watch me, which is awesome. As far as physical health goes, I am still overweight. There's no two ways about that. I jokingly call myself a fat bastard for that reason. Obviously, I know some people are like, you're not that, but like, the reality is, like, I am medically overweight. It is as simple as that. I'm not as anywhere near overweight as I used to be, of course. Those who have seen my story before will know about my eating disorder I had as a teenager and stuff like that. So, yeah, there's a lot of that kind of stuff. But we are losing weight. We are doing well on that front. We are still over my target weight by the end of the year, but we are working on it slowly but surely, so hopefully we can get there soon. Next up is a question from Kelsey, who's also a somewhat budding streamer. He's been off and on it himself. Do you feel that a webcam is essential to your Twitch stream? Now, this question comes up a lot, and a lot of streamers get asked this, including myself, and it's a pretty interesting topic that's probably too long for a video like this, but the quick sort of TLDR to it is, specifically for me, a webcam is absolutely essential, because one of the goals I had when I started streaming was to overcome my mental health, and one of my triggers a lot of the time that really does cause my anxiety issues to spread up is my own appearance. I've never liked how I've looked historically, for obvious reasons, and stuff like that. So being able to actually put myself on the camera in front of me and kind of force myself to have to look at it in a way is kind of an aversion therapy in a sense. So it actually works out kind of nice for me specifically. But in general, as a rule of thumb for streamers, this question does get asked a lot. It's like, is it absolutely necessary to have a webcam in your stream? No. There are very successful streamers out there that don't use a webcam at all. However, is it recommended? Yeah, absolutely. Psychology shows that it's much easier to form a connection with someone that you can see and hear as opposed to just hear. So if you can't really be seen, if you're not using a webcam or whatever, then yeah, essentially, hey, it's harder to connect with you. Now, there are obviously some instances where that differs. The VTubers and the PNG tubers that are coming up, of course, that's been a bit of a trend of late. Now, you still need a webcam to do, like, the VTuber stuff, if you want to create, like, an actual character avatar and stuff like that. But if you're a PNG tuber, you don't. There's ways to do it where it's literally just an image, like a still image, and then it just lights up when you're talking and stuff like that. That's existed. There's a couple of streamers that I know that are really, really good streamers that do that. So, yeah. Is it essential? No. Is it recommended? Absolutely. For me, it's absolutely essential, though. Because it's actually part of my goals, so it's definitely necessary. Next question comes from Daphne Says Raw. Do you think you would be where you are now if you didn't start streaming? No. Put bluntly, absolutely not. In terms of the actual streaming, in terms of the quality and the success we've had and stuff like that, yeah, if I didn't have any of this, God knows what would have happened during the pandemic. Who knows, maybe I wouldn't even be alive now. I don't want to think about that because that's obviously a very negative thought process, but it's highly possible that that might have been the case, right? You know, the friends I've made, and, you know, eventually I'll meet most of them in real life too, right? I've got a bunch of friends in the UK that watch my stream that I would love to go and hang out with in person and stuff like that. So it's one of those things where once all of the pandemic's over, once all of that's happened, we'll find a way to go hang out with some friends in real life. It'll be a nice, fun experience. So, but would I be where I am now? No, definitely not. So it's as simple as that. Like, while I don't make like a huge amount of money from streaming, I can't talk about my exact revenues and stuff because of terms of service, but something to point out is, you know, I get a small, like, supplement of income out of this. I don't make enough money to sustain a living on like, Twitch or YouTube, whatever. I'm not even monetized on YouTube and stuff like that. So, I wouldn't be where I am now, but the extra, like, buffer and support that I've had has made a huge difference. So, I definitely would not be where I am now if streaming was not a thing. Cider Snake asked me, what's your favorite part about streaming on Twitch? The answer is quite honestly you guys. That's putting it as it is. The fact that I can just turn up my stream and you guys are there hanging out, killing off my Pokemon, re-rolling my legendary encounters, maybe the odd revive my Pokemon, maybe suffering the Wobbuffet layout for an hour, you know, summoning Wobbuchan and all of that. Which also leads on to my other favorite thing, to be fair. There's kind of two major ones that I want to talk about. The first one is the people that I've met along the way, and the second one is the artists that I've met and I've been able to support, you know, whether it's directly through commissioning them or, you know, getting other people to commission them too, right? Nerda King made the background you see behind me alongside a lot of my layouts and stuff, particularly my original ones. Obviously, since then I've adapted to kind of rebuild them in my own way and stuff like that over time, and stuff like that. But anytime anyone asks me about layouts and stuff, I send them straight to Nerdo, because Nerdo's by far and away the best I know at it. He's super good. So, like, that kind of thing is commonplace, right? And, you know, Malefic Top Cat, of course, made the Wobbuchan shirt, which I'm wearing right now. Also made, like, a lot of the merch, the logos that you see on my streams, which are also on my merch store, which is link down below, hashtag shameless plug. But yeah, definitely it's the people I've met. Without a doubt in my mind, it's the people I've met along the way is my favorite part of streaming on Twitch. Next question coming from Vesper again, another one is, would you change anything you've done in the past 2 years? And I talk about this a little bit on stream directly, but there are a couple of periods, well, one main period which I talk about, which is like my first 10 months of those 2 years. Mostly due to, one, I kind of didn't really know what I was getting into when I started. I didn't do enough research when I started at all. I just got my PC built, got all the programs needed and stuff like that. And I did like a really bland, like, layout to start with. It looked really horrible, not gonna lie. It looked a mess. And I didn't like it and stuff. I didn't really know where to put my streaming setup and stuff like that, where I should put my programs or whatever. I didn't really know a lot of that, and I didn't do enough research into that. So that is something that I do regret going in. And the other big one I talked about, for those who are relatively new, I played Pixelmon for a little while. People have asked me about Pixelmon and would I play it. The reason I don't is because I did play it for a while. But it was a super toxic server. The owner was trash, and God knows what else was the problem with it. So yeah, it was a super toxic environment, and I was streaming that for like 3 months. I regret that period. I really do. It was a shit period in my streaming career. I regretted doing it, but I was kind of like peer pressured into streaming it. So yeah, I'm pretty glad that I don't. That's all behind us, and actually, as soon as I stopped doing that, I ended up meeting, like, Hermes Game Corner, who introduced me to Nerdo and a lot of the Game Corner crew, who are now regulars in my chat all the time. So, honestly, stopping Pixelmon was the best thing I ever did in that sense. It started out as the worst thing and one of the most regrettable periods of my streaming career, and then ended up leading into one of the best. So, it is what it is. But yeah, that's probably the only thing I would realistically change. Next question coming in from Caddington TV is, if Ribombee was never a Pokemon, what Twitch username would you have? And this one is incredibly hard for me to answer, because obviously I molded Ribombee around a Pokemon that became synonymous with me, due to a lot of things happening around Ribombee at the same time. But before Ribombee and before Gen 7 was a thing, my favorite Pokemon was Ninetales. So I probably would have done some kind of name around Ninetales. There's not really an easy answer to this one, because obviously I never really thought about it until this question was asked. Definitely an interesting question, though. But who knows? Obviously, there is a potential chance that a Pokemon game like Generation 9 or 10 may release and Ribombee's not even in the decks. But I probably would still keep Ribombee as my name anyway, because it is so synonymous with me at this point. I don't see a reason why I would change it. But yeah, before Ribombee was around, Ninetales was my favorite, so some kind of Twitch name around Ninetales. Next question coming in from Irish Starfish, or Pat, is, what did you ever consider the moment you stepped into maturity or gained a new sense of yourself? Honestly, the stepping into maturity part probably won't happen because I'm a troll, and if I stepped into maturity, I'd be boring as fuck, so I'd rather not do that one, to be honest. But nah, all jokes aside, though, I think there's two, like, main moments, particularly in the last couple of years of streaming, when I would say I found a lot more about me. I met a lot more people, and I talked about it before with, you know, meeting with Hermes Game Corner and Nerdo King and a lot of the Game Corner guys, like Average Gaming, you know, Hot Cooking Oil, Wonder Soul, and various other friends that I met from back there. There's a whole bunch of them that all regularly supported me, which is awesome, and of course are responsible for the visual upgrades of my stream, and stuff like that. But I think the single biggest one was releasing my story at the end of 2020. That was one of the biggest, like, new sense of self moments out there, because that video took me a hell of a long time to be able to do. That was like the 11th attempt of me trying to record that video, because I used to get like too heavily emotional. I still got emotional in that video, and if you haven't watched it, I suggest you go watch it. Go click on my channel. It should be the first video you see if you are a subscriber to the channel. which you should subscribe, by the way. That would be pretty nice of you. But, yeah, as far as gaining a new sense of self, that was probably the big one, because the response I got from that video blew me away, right? Because, I was watching that video, and I was watching it back, and at the time, I was kind of petrified of what everyone was gonna think of me. But the amount of response that I had, you know, of people that were shocked, for a start, of what I'd gone through, but also, like, the kind of bravery to step up and actually talk about all of that. Because a lot of us as content creators, like, it's very easy to hide, right? It's very easy to only kind of show, you know, the best side of you that you want people to see, right? And that happens, but at the same time, there's always that element of you would identify with someone that's real with you, right? And that's kind of where it became really important to me that I wanted to tell that story so that everybody understood. Because I feel like it's too easy for me to sit here, be the laughing, joking guy that everybody knows, the guy that trolls his friends, and the guy that lets his friends troll him and stuff like that. But there's more to me than that, and there's a lot of reasons to why that happens. So I think releasing that video was probably the biggest one where I really kind of stepped up and kind of understood myself more, if that makes sense. Melissa, of course, my very good friend Pyro Wolf, asked, if you could fly anywhere in the world right now, where would you go and why? Honestly, this is kind of tough, but I think the most obvious answer for me is Japan. I would love to go see, like, how Pokemon started, like, all the things Pokemon over there, because I love Pokemon to bits. As you know, I've been playing the Pokemon for 25 years at this point. That would be the obvious answer for, like, myself. But in general, I would really love to go, like, around the world and meet all of you guys in real life. That's something I would love to do, so I would love to just go do, like, a whole round-the-world trip, meet as many of you guys as possible, and actually make that such a fun journey. If I ever get big enough where that's possible, I'd love to do that, but we'll have to see if that ever happens. But yeah, it's a pretty awesome experience nonetheless. But yeah, there's definitely two answers there. I can't really think of anywhere else immediately offhand. But yeah, Japan or a round-the-world trip. I'd love to do that. Next question, of course, comes from my good friend Tiny Tina. Do you love me? Of course I do. I always love my people because, you know, my people mean the world to me. You know, at the end of the day, like I said this before and I'll say it again, whether you've been here from the start, whether you've been here for a little bit, you know, whether you joined up this morning into the Quiver Dance Club, you are all important. And, like, you are all important to me. And, like, at the end of the day, there's always going to be those friends that are always going to be close to you. Like, Tina and I have a lot of common ground. And stuff like that. There's a lot of things behind the scenes that you don't know. I'm not at liberty to talk about them here, so I won't. You know, like, we've always joked with each other and stuff like that. Tina and I have always had a good friendship ever since we met. And that's just how it goes, right? Sometimes you meet people and you become close, and that's how it is. But, yeah. And obviously, we always joke, I tease her that she dreams about me, because it actually did happen. A couple of times, so yeah, it's definitely pretty funny. But yeah, I'll always be a dream daddy, Tina, and that's how it stays. Next question coming in from Vesper, of course, is what is one of your fondest memories from streaming? And there's one that immediately springs to mind no matter any time I get asked this question, and it was my birthday stream from last year. And the reason why is because, for those who didn't know, I never celebrated my birthday until last year. That was something that just never happened because of my upbringing and stuff like that. And the funny thing is, at the time, I didn't stream on Fridays. I just didn't feel like Friday streams were good for me, so I just didn't stream on them. Alongside that, and occasionally I was working Friday nights as a security officer, so... but yeah, back then, obviously, pandemic happened, so we didn't get that lucky. But I think it's very easily that stream, because I was not planning on streaming that day at all, and it was a lot of friends of mine were pestering me and badgering me to, like, stream on that day, and I didn't quite know why. They all kept telling me you should stream on it. And of course, I'm just like, well, what do I expect? I've never celebrated my birthday before. I had no idea what was going to happen. I turned my stream on, and I think within 10 minutes, I was crying my eyes out. because like subs were coming in left and right, bits were coming in left and right, and I just didn't know how to react at all. Like, everything just like completely overwhelmed me. Like, friends of mine even jumped in voice call and were like reminding me of just how much of a difference I've made and stuff like that, and I was just crying my eyes out. And like, it sounds weird, right? You know, a grown man crying, but the reality is, it's like, how do you deal with that emotion? It was a combination of like, what's happening, and this is just insane to me. And, you know, I never expect that to happen. I've said this all the time. I don't ever ask for money on my streams. There's no sub goals. There's no donation goals. The only thing that I have that's financial on my stream is the charity goal, which I would love to hit that. We're doing pretty well on that regard right now, but I would love to hit that. That would be such a great precedent to hit. But yeah, it's one of those where it's like, man, that moment I look back on and I'm just reminded of how much value I have for people. And that one's gonna stick with me for a long, long time too. Like, I doubt anything's ever gonna be able to top that, but we'll see. Next question comes from the Irish cunt himself, Soren. Why are you such a prick? Because if I wasn't such a prick, you wouldn't watch me. Nah, all jokes aside though, of course, Soren and I casually insult each other all the time, but we are actually very good friends. It's always a good laugh, but yeah. To be fair, every community needs a jerk anyway, so why not be that jerk, you know? At the end of the day, it's always a good laugh, but yeah. I definitely love the banter with Soren and myself. It's always good fun, but yeah. Some people ask us about it. It's like, is it really okay that he's doing that? I'm just like, yeah, I don't care. Like, there's no malice in it or whatever. It's perfectly okay. Dear. And last but by no means least, last question of the episode comes from Average Gaming, of course, is what's the future hold for you and your brand? Well, who knows? For me, I hope that I can beat my insomnia, and I hope that I'm able to stream for longer, put out more content. Who knows? Maybe we can get Ribombee Teacher to be a partnered streamer in the future. You never quite know. I'm not really specifically aiming for partner or whatever. That's not really ever in my goals, but as far as brand goes, as far as what we've got coming up, there's going to be more collab playthroughs coming back. I want to bring collabs back, because we did them last year and they were super successful. And then, of course, the Nuzlocke Gauntlet kind of took over a lot, because I wanted to do some solo stuff to kind of keep myself as like a solo identity. Average and I, funny enough, have been talking about a playthrough, which we're going to keep under wraps for the time being. It will happen. But we will have to figure out all the final details and stuff. We've decided on the game that we're going to play and what type of playthrough we're going to play. We're just going to have to get visuals and stuff sorted out. I'm almost done with my layout, and I know Average is commissioning Nerdo for more layouts and stuff like that. I do have another playthrough with another friend who's just coming back to streaming, so that's going to be fun as well. That's going to be a cage lock playthrough. So, yeah. That I'm excited for. So there's a lot of things going. Obviously, we've got the Gauntlet to finish. We have the Sword and Shield Nuzlocke to get done, which Average is very kindly randomized for me. And apparently, he's put me through hell with some of the changes that he's made, so I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be pretty exciting. But yeah, definitely looking forward to this. It's going to be a good fun time. And of course, if anyone else wants to reach out to do a collaboration project with me, definitely hit me up. Hit me up in Discord. Feel free to reach out. I'm always open to do collabs. You know, I've played Phasmophobia with other friends too off stream. I do that a lot as well. So personal goal, I want to beat my insomnia by the end of the year. I'd like to lose the weight to get down to the correct weight for someone of my height and stuff like that. I'd love to be able to do that as well. But we'll do our best on that front. We'll see what we can do. But yeah, the plan is to fit or improve as much of my health as possible, which will really do a lot for me. And then, you know, as far as the Pokemon stuff goes, Unite's going to be coming soon, so I'll be looking forward to that. We'll be playing a lot more Nuzlocks and stuff. There's probably going to be some fan games and ROM hacks to play, which I'm excited for. So there's a lot going on. So that's essentially the future for us. And with all that being said, that is going to be the end of our Ask Ribombee. Hey, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. I appreciate that. If you guys have any questions you want to ask me, feel free to go hit up my Twitch channel. I stream on Twitch every weekday from 8 PM UK time, or 3 PM Eastern Daylight Time. So if that is your jam, feel free to come hang out. I'd love to have you there, of course. Make sure you join my Discord, and all my other socials will be down in the description below if you want to pick up some merch like Wobachan merch or whatever logo playthrough we're in. We're currently doing a loader at the time of recording this. Definitely go check out my merch store. That's also in the description as well. But with all that being said, thank you so much for watching, and thank you all for the 2 years of making content. My name is Ribombee Teacher. Stay safe. Stay awesome. I'll catch you guys next time. Take care.